Welcome. I see some new faces here, and a few old friends. But we're all here for one reason. To heal. Together.
They just picked everyone off one by one.
We are talking Slashening, the final beginning. This is actually also known as simply Slashening 2, and it's obviously a sequel to the movie Slashening. This is a trauma movie and actually does have a small appearance from Lloyd Kaufman. But it's directed by Basham, who also wrote this, and it's a slasher horror comedy. Now, if you can imagine, this does what for indie horror that Scream does for mainstream horror, I guess you want to say. It is a spoof of the genre and is in some ways quite a clever sequel to the original movie. Now, I haven't actually seen the original film, but I actually read up about it prior to watching this one, so I could kind of, understand it. So what's the story? So basically it focuses on this support group of people who have some type of trauma in their life. And there are some people within this group that have dealt with serial killers, specifically the serial killer from the first film. And it seems to be that another killer in the same mask is targeting people within this kind of support group. And obviously, as the body count mounts, we question who this kind of killer is, very much kind of like in the majority of these kind of slash type films. Along the way, there's lots of kind of jokes, particularly about feminism for some reason, and a variety of kind of gory kills on the way. So let's talk about what works. Okay, there's one thing here that I feel really elevates this movie, and that is there's some very strong directorial choices, particularly within two instances of the film. There is an instance within this kind of like this art gallery that I feel there is some very strong directorial choices that are made, and also at the end of the movie when the kind of the climax, and it kind of without giving anything away, I was reminded of some of the things the techniques used in the TV show 24 is all I'll say. But nonetheless, I felt like this has some creativity behind its direction. Let's just say that. So some quite creative and stylistic filmmaking. I feel fans of the slasher genre may appreciate some of these gags. I mean, it's been a while, I guess, since we've had a spoof movie. And, there are sequences, particularly there's a kind of like a prologue sequence, which I think is probably one of the strongest sequences in the movie in regards to the actual kind of serial killer. That is quite fun, and obviously, makes jokes about the kind of the slasher genre in particular. Nonetheless, it was quite funny, and it's going to remind you of really the first kind of scary movie in a lot of ways. The kills, I guess, are quite fun in a lot of ways, and they're somewhat inventive, using different kind of implements and things like that. It's never particularly kind of gruesome or gory. It almost seems like it's somewhat kind of accessible for more general audiences in a lot of ways. But I have to be honest with you. I think the main problem with this film is its humour. Now, humour is subjective, but this one, I've got to be honest with you, I found the humour to be very hard to sit through. Not because it's offensive or anything like that, but I didn't think it was particularly funny, if I'm honest. And some of the jokes, they just drag out for way too long. I mean, it just seems to go on for... maybe it's an American thing. Obviously, I'm from the UK. I find some comedy here, it's very quick and sharp, and you tell a joke, you move on. And, you'll notice kind of sometimes, like some quick lines that are said, and they're almost somewhat innocuous, and they're just dropped in the conversation without having this big kind of like, sequence where we're going to kind of react to it. And I feel that's the thing with this film, is it just kind of like stays in the jokes way too long. I think, okay, let's kind of move on because it's not funny now. It's almost embarrassing. So I really didn't, for me, the humour was a lot of misses. Some people might like it. Like I said, humour is very much of an objective thing. But to me, it didn't work most of the time. The actual story itself, I will say it's quite clever how it kind of relates to the previous movie. I've got to be honest with you, I think this is one film where it would help if you watched the first film. But the actual story itself, I didn't find particularly interesting. I think the kind of like the mechanic of this support group and the people within there, it just seemed to kind of like meander around and didn't really, and was somewhat kind of like, we didn't really feel like we were getting much progression in a kind of a story. It was more of just like setting up jokes. The movie's also obsessed with feminism for some reason. And I guess this was made, you know, when the whole Me Too thing was hot, I guess. And it kind of seems, I don't know, it just seems like it's just obsessed with that for some reason. And I don't really know why. And I think that the movie would have benefited from having more jokes specifically about the horror genre rather than feminism, which it seems to be its main cause of kind of setup for jokes and things like that. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think it parodied the kind of the horror genre enough. The opening sequence, I think, is the best in the movie in regards to that. It's kind of like it's jokes in regards to the horror genre itself, but it kind of outside of that, when we kind of go into the story proper, and I think that outside of some good directorial flourishes, to me it kind of never really got that interesting again. I have to be honest with you, I found this movie somewhat of a chore to sit through. I'm not the biggest slasher fan, so it may well have been lost on me to a certain degree. And like I said, humour is objective, so even though I didn't appreciate the humour, other people may find it funnier than I did. But for me personally, I got to be honest with you, I actually found this quite weak. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, and that's really, I feel I'm giving that not a lower score because there are some very strong directorial moments within this movie, and maybe I would like the director to maybe do something else other than comedy, because I don't feel that's his wheelhouse. Anyway, 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.